G'day, I'm Jamie Roberts, back with another episode of Gold Rushes of Australia. In the last few weeks, I've been telling you the story of the mysterious Lassetters Reef, the El Dorado that Harold Lassetter says he discovered about 500 kilometres west of Alice Springs when he was just a boy, 17, in 1897. The story has led us to the only expedition undertaken by Lassetter that was accurately documented. By July 1930, the entire crew had convened in Alice Springs, including the aircraft flown over by Errol Coote. Now, the leader Blakely did get a little concerned in Alice Springs when Harold Lassetter started recalling some of the buildings in the town that he'd seen 30 years previously. Unfortunately, the local postal clerk had to inform him that none of those buildings were older than 20 years. On the 21st of July 1930, 6 men set out to head 400 kilometres west to a place called Bilba, where a camp had previously been set up by an earlier explorer. Here they would create an airstrip for their plane, and they could also access underground water. The expedition leader Blakely said it was the best turnout that he'd ever seen. They had absolutely everything with them: a plethora of food, cooking equipment, mining equipment, guns and ammunition. The only thing that they didn't take was alcohol other than some brandy that they kept in their first aid kit. Well, the expedition didn't get off to a great start, with the 6-wheeler truck having trouble making it through the sand. Even with coconut matting and men pushing it, they regularly had to stop and dig it out. And that's not counting the 4 punctures that they were having to repair each day. Well, they finally made it to Bilba, created their airstrip, but unfortunately the plane was taking off at a previous airstrip that they'd created at a place called Taylor's Creek. It failed to clear some trees, crashed, landed nose down in the sand. The pilot, Coote, was seriously injured and was carted by truck back to Alice Springs. Well, the Central Australia Gold Exploration Company promptly sent out another aeroplane to replace it, much to the disappointment of Blakely, the expedition leader, who would have much preferred a team of camels. On the 18th of August, the expedition set out to find the lost reef, but Blakely was concerned that Lassetter was not holding up his end of the bargain by identifying landmarks along the way. He was very vague about the direction that they were heading in. Not a good sign. It took them 6 days to reach a place called Mount Margaret, where Blakely once again had the opportunity to quiz Lassetter on where the hell they were going. They climbed up to the highest point, looked around, but Lassetter only said, well, he thought that they were 150 kilometres too far to the north and that they needed to change direction. The going got harder with steeper sand dunes and the 6-wheeler continuing to get bogged. They got to a point where Blakely said, we can't get any further, but Lassetter insisted that they continue south. They got another 20-30 kilometres, but it was hopeless. They were just, the going was too slow and too much for hard work. So they turned around, made the slow trek back to Bilba, where they were met by a young German man named Paul John, who had with him 2 Aboriginal men and 5 camels. So it's Paul John and his team going to be the knights in shining armour that are going to help the expedition find Lassetters Reef. I'll tell you on next week's episode of Gold Rushes of Australia on the Miners Den Show. I'll see you then.